I read more chapters. I'm sure many of my viewers are familiar with the comic I Thought My Time Was Up. It was the very first webtoon I ever dipped my toes into in order to make a video about, and therefore it has a somewhat special spot in my heart. If you've been around since that video, then you deserve a prize because my editing was terrible and my audio quality was hell. You might be wondering why we're here. Well, that's because I Thought My Time Was Up recently ended and I figured I should go back and reread it. I wanted to see if my opinions have changed, if maybe my worldview has made the reading of the comic better or worse. Now is as good a time as any to read because Webtoon is gonna stop letting me read it for free tomorrow? I gotta get on this. While I read, why don't you listen to this guy? This video is brought to you by Unveil. Unveil is one of my favorite websites that I recommend to basically anyone looking for a warm community to post their creations. When you create your user profile, you can upload everything from your original characters to the unique world they live in to even the character traits that they have. You can explore Unveil in so many fun ways to discover like-minded individuals as well. There are community events you can participate in, there's a community tab to greet new users, and even a fun random button where you can find new artists you otherwise might have missed. Unveil also hosts blog updates with tips and tricks on how to improve your art and writings as well. There's also a brand new post from yours truly if you wanted to see more of this. But hands down, the best feature of Unveil is the never NFT and anti-AI policy they have in place, so you know that the art you're seeing is made by someone just like you. Unveil is the best platform for sharing your characters, the worlds they live in, and so much more. The team at Unveil is dedicated to making their platform the best it can possibly be, and boy does it show. With over 200,000 people on the platform, you are guaranteed to meet other like-minded artists just like you. Click the link in the description down below to join for free, and thank you so much to Unveil for sponsoring this video. And without further ado, let's get back to the video. If you don't know or don't remember what I talked about in my last video, let me catch you up to speed. Our story starts with our main lead, Lariette, yes, that is her name, getting diagnosed with a terminal illness that leaves her only 3 months left to live. With her last days in mind, she decides to make some big changes in her life in order to live out the rest of her days on her own terms. You see, Lariette feels like she missed out on getting to live her life the way she wanted to, since she'd spent all of her time trying to please her unpleasable family. So she makes a bucket list consisting of these things. 1, give cake to her maid Anne. 2, gain independence by saving money. 3, breaking off her engagement to Marcus Sergev. 4, date a handsome man, but only for 3 months. And 5, travel to the west because her brother Ryan wouldn't stop bragging about his own travels to her. After going out to buy cake for Anne, Lariette comes home to find her future fiancé, Mr. Rapey Sergev, has been waiting for her. And after making her uncomfortable, she decides that now is as good a time as any to break off her engagement to him. She was only engaged to him because it would make her family incredibly wealthy to sell her off to him. So, using her make vines grow to trap people magic, oh yeah, she has make vines grow to trap people magic, she tells him about how creepy he is and how she won't marry him. Shocked and appalled by her behavior, her parents formally disown her and kick her out of the house. Now that Lariette is homeless, she wanders the streets alone until coming upon our main male lead, Duke Crandall. Nuh-uh. What do you mean, nuh-uh? It says so right there. Look again. No! Duke Candle? How could I have misread something like that? And it was here I started to notice things as I reread this webtoon. Little things I had missed during my original reading. The phrases seemed different than when I had read them last. Reasons for actions are explained in a way I now understand. I got Azrahan's last name wrong, for heaven's sake. Can I even be trusted to be a narrator to this story? Am I an unreliable narrator? A dyslexic, bad at reading, unreliable narrator? So Lariette meets Duke Azrahan Candle, and she convinces him to let her live with him in exchange for curing his lifelong curse. As a boy, Azrahan has been cursed to have his flesh rot, making him stinky and an outcast. Since no one cared for him, he grew into a warlord guy that everyone was afraid of. Azrahan has been looking for someone powerful enough to cure his 20-year-old curse, but since he hadn't been able to find anyone, he had given up and accepted the fact that he would forever be stinky. The the king also has granted Azrahan the privilege of being able to kill anyone he pleases, so that's hot.
What do you think, Wackus Bonkus? Kill him. Who? You naughty Wackus Bonkus.
But when Lariat finds him, she tells him she can cure him and plans to use the opportunity to date him, crossing off another thing from her bucket list. Close enough. While Azrahan doesn't think she can do it, Lariat proves him wrong by starting the magical purification process of his body. Azrahan doesn't believe it, probably because he didn't hear the narrator tell us that Lariat was the most powerful witch of this generation. She has all sorts of magic she can use, stuff like purify a curse magic, make vines grow magic, get people stuck in the ground magic, fireball magic, soak the guy in water magic, make the cucumber smell go away magic, make the flowers into a flying crown that lands on Azrahan's head magic, you know, all kinds of useful stuff. So after finding out that Lariat can cure his curse, albeit slowly, Azrahan has her sign a contract for them to work together, with Azrahan informing Lariat of a strict employer-employee relationship, and Lariat ignoring that, fully planning on dating him. She even asks him multiple times if he wants to do so, with Azrahan telling her no multiple times. Lariat's goal is to date him just until she dies, not informing Azrahan that she's terminally ill either. Great job, Lariat.
You're a good guy, Gary!
During the cat and mouse escapades of Lariat trying to bag Azrahan, she ends up needing to be healed from his sickness herself. Enter Doha, the third in Love Corner. Doha is a priest healer guy who has so much power he could be the next pope of their world. Now, I want to note that in this world, the magic users can't use their healing magic on themselves or on someone with a higher level of magic than them, which begs the question, if Azrahan could have called on Doha to help heal Lariat, then why didn't he just pay Doha to heal his curse in the past? It's just a question. It's just a question, you know? Thinking. Doha, after having met Lariat, learns that she is as powerful as he is and decides to befriend her with the intention of using her to help him. I think. It's never really 100% explained why. I think originally he was just curious about her and wanted to keep her around since she could heal him. But as time goes on, Doha starts to fall in love with Lariat. We get monologue after monologue of how he wants her to himself, and it's kind of creepy, I'm not gonna lie. Bad, future pope. Bad! Cut that out right now. Bad, Pope. Bad! But Lariat doesn't know that Doha likes her, so she continues on thinking all is fine. Time goes on, and Azrahan starts to develop feelings for Lariat. That's not the only thing he develops, which makes him grow jealous of her and Doha's friendship, which leads him to asking if Lariat's initial offer of the two of them to date still stands. Lariat agrees, thinking Azrahan remembers the part she told him, but only for 3 months. And Azrahan is excited, thinking that he's going to get married to her someday. Definitely not fast moving at all, buddy. Meanwhile, Lariat's family starts to look for her, not out of love or worry, but because they feel slighted by her. Her brother Ryan sees her at the library and tells her she should come home because she's making a mockery of their family by living as a monster's pet. And when Lariat stands her ground, Ryan hits her. Lariat is shocked by how horribly Ryan had treated her and starts to question how her family could treat her so terribly. But now that her family knows where she is, they make a plan to trap Lariat. Lariat receives a letter from her mother and asks her to meet her at a restaurant. When Lariat goes, she isn't expecting much, but is shocked when her mother starts to apologize. And she starts to actually listen to her. Thinking that a heartfelt apology will get Lariat to come back home, her mother puts on an absolute performance. Unswayed, Lariat is about to leave, but is kidnapped and taken back to her house where her magic is bound and she is locked in her bedroom. Once our warlord Azrahan hears about Lariat's disappearance, he goes in search of her, finding her having been locked away. A glorious reunion is presented to us and the pair finally reunite. We get Azrahan and Doha doting on her, asking who hurt her, and all seems well in the world. But we still had 60 plus chapters to read. What else could there be to this comic? Surely there's nothing else and it's just gonna devolve into being nothing but fluff and fan service, right? Not much of what I had seen had really intrigued me enough to read more. I was pretty frustrated with Lariat as a character the first time around, with those feelings growing into full-on hate my second time through. I hated how she treated others with no thoughts of how her actions were affecting them. I hated hated how she abused the boundaries Azrahan would set for her, but most of all, I hated where the story was going. At least, I hated where I thought the story was going. In my original video, I make the claim that reading 42 chapters should be enough for me to really sink my teeth into a story and be able to judge it, and honestly, I don't know if I agree with that anymore. At least not fully, anyways. Let me explain. As the story continues, Lariette's family begins to feel the consequences of having kidnapped and beaten her. Their family starts to fall into ruin, with Lariette's dad being blamed for having conspired against a family member. Lariette's mother has a full-on mental breakdown, and Ryan gets Doha so pissed about the treatment of Lariette that Doha gives him the same disease Lariette has. Because of this, Duke Blanche sends an assassin after Lariette in order to punish her for having disobeyed him and putting their family name to shame. Meanwhile, Lariette starts to have a lot of self-reflection about her actions towards others as well as her family's actions towards her. While she is making new friends and connections, she wonders why all of these good things are starting to happen now. She thinks about how she's been good and submissive all of her life and how she truly wants to live for herself now that her time is limited. And honestly, I found myself a little less annoyed by Lariette and more saw myself in her. Lariette comes from a family where she is not valued and has to learn how to value herself, as well as learn that her treatment was not normal or good. All the while, everyone in her family thinks that she's the one in the wrong, constantly being put under the pressure of presenting to others that your family is normal and perfect and nothing is wrong was something that I really related to. And when you finally leave and you get a taste of what the world could be, you do start to wonder if your prior treatment was normal. You question everything and have to learn what behavior is and isn't acceptable. Lariette starts to go through this learning process herself, reflecting on her emotions and actions towards her that weren't kind. After the kidnapping incident, her journey to grow actually begins. Because she wants to be able to defend herself against her family, Lariette asks Doha to teach her how to properly use her magic. Doha agrees to this, seeing as how it's a good way to spend time with her, and Lariette learns more and more of her magic. As she does this, Lariette starts to become a more confident individual. Having learned some new magic skills, she starts practicing them around the House of Candle. It's here that she overhears a conversation between Azrahan and one of his knights, and Azrahan is talking about how he thinks his dating Lariette will lead to them getting married. Here, Lariette finally starts to understand that she had miscommunicated and now is worried because her miscommunication will lead to Azrahan getting hurt when she dies. She starts to understand that her actions towards everyone she had met and befriended, while being good intentioned, are going to hurt them. I really found myself relating to and being invested in these characters that I had fully discounted just 10 chapters I had stopped reading. Now, I'm not saying that you should give a comic 40 plus mediocre chapters in hopes that it'll be good, or that I should have been reading for literal years of a comic before I can find relatable aspects. But that said, I found myself thinking I had judged I Thought My Time Was Up too quickly and too harshly. My personal view of myself was starting to change, and I wasn't sure I was ready yet to understand that some of what I had said was wrong. Maybe I'm not as reliable and correct as I thought I was, but maybe I was ready for a change. Maybe this was a lesson for me to learn about how to be more critical in my reading, or maybe this was the start of understanding my new views of things I had originally hated. Maybe this was my signal to move forward. So Lariette's family has put a hit on her, and meanwhile Lariette is starting to understand the consequences of her actions. As all of this is happening, political conflicts begin to force Azrahan to join a war he doesn't want to be part of. This all ramps up to the grand finale of the first season of I Thought My Time Was Up. Lariette begins to prepare to leave Azrahan and her new life behind, but as she's trying to figure out the best way to disappear without people getting hurt, the assassin her family sent finally makes an appearance. And what an appearance it is. This dude is probably one of my favorite characters of season 1 because A, he slays, both in fashion and people I guess, and B, the entire time he's on screen, he's talking about how much he loves a strong woman.
I like apples and bananas.
Me too, bro. Me too.
Like, don't get me wrong, he's not a good guy, but he does make a few good points. So Assassin Guy takes Lariat back to his hideout, finds her magic, and begs her to run away with him. When Lariat says no and fights back, Assassin Guy starts to stab her to make her agree. Classic negotiation tactic. Alright, well, putting everything into consideration, it's looking like our best offer is going to be about $48,000 for your new car. 38,000. As this is happening, Azrahan gets word that Lariat has been kidnapped and goes in search of her. Luckily, he is able to find her, and when he does, our assassin friend holds Lariat at knife point, telling Azrahan to drop his weapon and Lariat won't get hurt. When Azrahan agrees, this sparks Lariat to try to talk some sense into him. Lariat tells him to leave. She tells him that she's the problem, that none of this would have happened had she just been honest with him. But when Azrahan doesn't leave, Lariat takes it upon herself to make the ultimate sacrifice in order to save Azrahan. She plunges the dagger into herself, falling to her death in order to give Azrahan the chance to escape. This brings us to the end of season 1, with Lariat having come to understand that her actions were wrong and killing herself in order to protect the very one she loves. Very Romeo and Juliet of them, and dare I say, I would have really liked it. Would have? Yes, would have. Because there is one important detail that I neglected to mention when I was re-synopsizing the story. Our story starts with our main lead, Lariat, yes, that is her name, getting diagnosed with a terminal illness that leaves her only 3 months left to live. That was a lie!
I lied.
That is not where our story starts. Our story starts in Medias Res, which is Latin for, I don't know, I guess we're just gonna randomly start in the middle of the story and then cut back in time to the start, I guess, because that's what happens. The story actually starts off with Lariat in a doctor's office being told that actually no, she isn't dying, and she'd been given the wrong diagnosis. From there, we flash back and go through the events I just spoke about, making any of the life or death events lose any value they could have ever had, because we know for a fact she doesn't die. Lariat's bittersweet sacrifice for Azrahan somewhat loses its value because I know she doesn't die. I guess she doesn't know, but like it loses the value, okay? So what if I knew she wasn't going to die? I thought my time was up was really starting to bring me around to its story. I related to Lariat's struggles about her home life. I loved getting to see Lariat reflect on her mistakes and actions. I'll be damned if I don't have a soft spot in my heart for this corpse-looking man. I was starting to get bits and pieces of a world the creators were building up to. I went into season 2 hopeful and excited about the story to come. So with Lariat dying in Azrahan's arms, how will she survive? Well, Doha Ex Machina shows up, having been alerted to Lariat's dire condition, and he heals her basically instantly. Now with Lariat having been rescued, her family truly falls into ruins. Her father is executed for hiring the assassin, Lariat's mother completely loses her mind, and Ryan dies. He's just dead now. Lariat finally finishes purifying Azrahan of his curse, making him a free man, and she decides where she will be traveling to as she awaits her death. She says her goodbyes to her newfound friends, and Azrahan leaves to go fight in the previously mentioned war. Now that Lariat is free, she leaves in the dead of night, wondering why so many good things had to happen to her when she was just going to die. I was truly starting to come around to this comic. Sure, some of the timing was a little weird, and there were definitely things I would have changed, but maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Maybe it was time for me to make a 40-minute apology video with ads about how I judged it too harshly on my first go around. I was excited thinking about what that video would look like and what I would say. Maybe I was in the wrong for complaining about a story that had only just begun. Was it time for me to change my ways? To research my videos better? To come at reading from different angles? To think more critically? Maybe it's time to move on. Nope, I was right all along. This comic sucks. And fuck it, his name is Crandall, because I'm never Wrong! The war ends in a week, and Lariat is sitting around wondering why she hasn't died yet. Come to find out, Doha had cured her disease, and that is why she was originally given the wrong diagnosis. Now that Lariat is going to live, we spend the next 40 chapters meandering around until the story ends. Lariat is about to go home, but then she learns that her previous fiancé, Sir Rapey, is looking for her and wants to have her locked away in his Rapey mansion. Sir Rapey takes advantage of Azrahan's absence at the war, and has hundreds of his knights and guards and people out looking for Lariat. Where has he and all of his resources been this whole time? I don't know, who cares? Here, Doha finds her, and together they make an escape from Sir Rapey's guards. Doha uses this as an excuse to be closer to Lariat and convince her that Azrahan actually hates her and wants her dead for leaving him. Meanwhile, Lariat is desperate to go back to Azrahan. She feels incredibly guilty for having lied to Azrahan about her circumstances and wishes more than anything to apologize. As they are traveling to escape, Azrahan is hot on their trail, trying to find Lariat. Doha knows this and does everything in his power to keep Lariat and Azrahan apart. He steals letters she's writing to Azrahan to update him on her whereabouts. He keeps her hidden from Azrahan's guards, the whole 9 yards. At one point, he starts referring to her as his precious, and I gotta be honest, I almost died.
Precious.
On the way, Lariat and Doha's train gets delayed because of monsters. You know, monsters? Those monsters that we've been told about this whole time? The ones we've definitely seen or heard mentioned throughout the story? Those monsters? Those ones? Apparently monsters exist in this world, and we only find out about their existence 76 chapters in. 76 chapters into a 100-chapter comic, they just drop monsters in a previously monsterless story. So during a monster attack, Azrahan and Lariat finally come face to face. Azrahan realizes that Lariat does love him and is trying to come back to him. And Lariat realizes that Azrahan cares enough about her to come looking for her. But soon the pair are separated again when their train carts come loose and they roll away from each other. Lariat shouts to him, telling him how he can find her. Meet me at Whittia! At Whittia!
Well, these carts are moving pretty slowly. Maybe I could just run over to you?
Find me!
No, I can just hop on. I can just get on up.
Meet me at Whittia!
Okay, I love you. See you at all.
Now, supposedly Sir Rapey is still looking for her, but we don't actually see him ever again in the story. Like at all. Ever. Which makes all of the dicking around the characters did feel extremely unnecessary and also makes me feel like, I don't know, he could just come back at any point. We didn't resolve this after the story ends. Is he just gonna pounce again? Because he's just so rapey? Azrahan and Lariat eventually reunite, with Doha having left Lariat in order to do some soul searching of his own. And together, her and Azrahan get married, and then they have 3 kids. The end. The end of the story really does just happen as quickly as it started. The breakneck speed felt as if a huge chunk of the original source material was being crammed into the last half in order to just have the story done. Like, there's a girl who wants Azrahan for herself, but she only appears in like 6 chapters. I fucking counted. And she really doesn't pose any threat. Why couldn't she have just been cut out of the story so we could focus on more important characters' personal drama? Another thing that seemed really unnecessary was the fact that all of the maids and people who worked for Azrahan hated Lariat because it seemed like she was superficial for coming back to live with him after the war. But it doesn't matter because in the end, Lariat manages to win them over within like 5 fucking chapters. I would have much rather had a chance to focus on Doha and his personal struggles than if Lariat can win over a few background characters. All in all, I think this story does have some great aspects to it, but it gets overshadowed by events that don't matter that eventually lead to me not liking the story as much. I think if I were to own a copy of it, I would make my own revisionist history of it, where I'd cut out the initial she's not dying part and have it end with her sacrificing herself to save Azrahan. But that's my opinion, and as we've seen, I'm always right.
Oh, I'm free. I'm free. Oh. Dang it.
Thank you so much to my patrons, Izama, Roses and Water, Lady Alpossum, Nowhere to Xander, Icy, TJ, Minty Williams, Char Char, Lygon, Meep Cubed, Aelhart, Bean Dork, Anna the Giant, Abby Gale, Selena BB, Claudia E. Gomez, Blue Vamp Countess, Pink Naya, Mies Coles Punk, Squidius, Kathleen O'Neill, Nevia's Fox, Punchy McPuncherson, Stacy Child, Hollow Angel, Dominus Bader, Fizzy Dizzy Studios, Jumping Spooter, Matt Nicky, Zany Gemini, Natalie Gier, Mashiru, and Sage Spalding. If you would also like to join my Patreon to have your name read aloud at the end of these videos and get early access to my main videos as well as my second channel's videos, I'm working on making videos over there, I promise. And you can see fully watercolored comic whips I'm working on. You can join my Patreon for only $2 a month. I also have full comics available for digital purchase as well. And don't forget to check out Unveil on your way out. And yeah, bye-bye.